Today's amazing guest is Rob Hope. Rob Hope is a South African-born web designer, developer, and maker who runs One Page Love, Email Love, and the Yo podcast. After a decade of freelancing, he finally took the leap to work on his side projects full-time. Right now, he's working on landing page content while interviewing makers on the Yo podcast. When he's not doing all this amazing stuff, he loves to surf, birdwatch, and listen to 90s punk rock. Now, if you are watching or listening to this right now and you're a designer, entrepreneur, or anyone who's looking to launch their product and have a landing page, you definitely need to check out Rob's Landing Page Hot Tips ebook. This ebook contains 100 actionable lessons. It has 200 plus landing page resources, basically everything you need to up your landing page game. The link is going to be in the show notes. And yes, if you click on this link, you will get a 40% discount because you're listening to the Design MBA podcast. So without further ado, Rob Hope, welcome to the show, man.
Jay Neil, it's been a minute, overdue. We had a little private chat. It was meant to be 5 minutes, landed up being like 2 hours.
Yeah, I know.
We just hit it off immediately.
I know you hit it off immediately. And it's so nervous for me because, when you're interviewing another podcaster, and especially you, man, like your production quality is so awesome that I was literally nervous. I'm like, I got to make sure that, I make it up to Rob's level.
Oh, dude, thank you. Those are kind words, man. I'm looking forward to chatting.
How was your week off? You recently took like a week off complete from the internet and just unplugged. How was that?
Yeah, it was good and it's needed. I went inland South Africa because we're kind of landlocked right now with the COVID situation. Our South African passport is not a popular one.
No.
And yeah, we basically taking our trips that we would where overseas and we taking them inland, which has got massive benefits. It's like probably the silver lining on this whole thing is that we really exploring our own country and appreciating it a lot more than we would. So yeah, I took 7 days offline, just the odd check-in for disasters, nothing.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really good reset and needed.
Oh my God. I think the last time I remember ever doing something like that where there was just like no check-in, like pretty much like no internet watching or binge watching TV shows was when I was in Vipassana. And for 11, 12 days when I was in that doing Vipassana meditation, they take away your phones. There's no electronics there, meaning like there's no TV or something. So it felt so amazing. Like I was always like, oh, if I come back after 12 days, there's going to be hundreds of messages. But there's only a message from my brother saying like, what's up? And it felt so like disappointing.
Yeah, I actually spent 10 days on a boat in Indonesia in 2019 on a surf trip. And that was also no signal. And, the downside, you have family and, I got a partner in Cape Town and you start to worry. But that digital cleanse is worth so much. Especially with working so many hours and you come back and you're just firing cannons. So yeah, I'd highly recommend that offline. Just push for it. You think the world's going to end, but everything's just continues as it was.
And speaking of surfing, I've always wanted to pick up surfing, but obviously I've never tried it. I always like that image of where like somebody's on a really big wave. And it is like a stupid question. Like you probably weigh more than 100 pounds. So like if you're on that surfboard and you're on that wave, are you not supposed to just drop down? This is water.
It's actually quite a good question. So, the surfboard you buy or use, you need to, it needs to hold your weight. So, if you're really heavy, you need a lot more volume and you get like way bigger boards. That's why for beginners or, elder people, unfit people, you're just going to get a very long board. It gives you that, advantage. You just have to paddle less. But, I have quite a short board, a high performance board. I've been surfing 20 years now.
Oh my God.
And the real secret though, like if I was to give you like the crux of surfing right now is that when you are paddling for your wave, you need to paddle faster than the wave.
Oh.
So the wave comes in, it's a certain speed. And if you don't paddle faster than the wave is going to carry on without you.
Oh, I see.
So what do you do is that, you can give yourself a little bit of advantage as well when you have that more volume, more buoyancy.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, your one stroke goes further than if you were sitting on like a little baby board, then you tend to sink. So the secret with surfing, man, like when you start, you must just remember like your arms. You got to do big pulls, big strokes. And if you can get that speed, think of it like a skimming stone. It's like the faster you throw that stone, it's going to skim on the surface. So big pull into your first wave, and it gives you that advantage versus sinking.
It's such I had this amazing epiphany as I was listening to you. You just casually mentioned that you've been surfing for 20 plus years. And I know there's a lot of people who do it for just one-off and they can kind of lose interest. And this is a theme that I'm noticing as I was doing my research on you. I noticed that you started One Page Love, right? Where you're collecting all these websites that just are one pagers. There's no about page. There's no separate pages, just one page websites. And you started focusing on that niche in 2008. And it blew my mind because, dude, that was literally when, I think 2008, I just entered my undergrad university in India. I was becoming more active on Facebook. I still had my Hotmail email address. And you've been hustling for 13 years since then. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to say on sticking with something, over time. And we can go there. But for me, everything in my life that I really enjoy, I've pretty much been doing it for a very long time. You pick up these fads and, these trends and so on, and they come and go. But, all the best things in my life have been things that I've been doing for a very long time. I guess you become more skilled. You learn how to enjoy them in different phases. Mm-hmm. But, when it comes to surfing, that learning curve in the beginning, it's just so difficult. I'm trying to teach my girlfriend to surf and, it's cold. She's just falling. The board's hitting her. It's awful. But that's what separates, the good surfers from the surfers that think surfing's cool and just want to try it. It's they stuck it out. And the fact that I've been surfing, since I was 13, so that's actually 25 years.
Oh my God.
So I'm 38 now. So I actually now, because I've got so much experience, and this is metaphors galore coming out here, but because I have so much experience in surfing, is that I can not surf for 2 months and then go out in fairly big waves of consequence and get right amongst it. It doesn't take me long to get there, and I can get a lot out of the surf. So I can perform and pick it up pretty quickly with muscle memory. So I guess same goes with design. Years and years and years in the game. And to start designing is so overwhelming. Which software do we use? Oh my word! And I'm not fast enough and stuff. But over time, it's you want to whip up a mock-up or a wireframe in Figma now. It's hey, I can actually spin up a concept in 20 minutes. Back in the day, this is hours, and that's the resistance to get starting. So when it came to, my site One Page Love, a big takeaway here is that, I did love the niche one-page websites. I was drawn to it. Surfing. If I didn't like the sea and the water naturally, I would have just dropped out. So, if you want to have a big takeaway lesson here, for anyone listening, if you're not passionate about something, it will come out, but you probably don't have to pretend you like it and stick with something you do like. And what happened with One Page Love is that, I got going and, I guess luckily you could call it luck, but the one page trend took off. Mm-hmm. But because I was so attracted to simple website design and how people were, offering solutions with one page, I was so drawn to that I could work a Friday night, a Sunday morning, waiting for someone to, my girlfriend to wake up. I'm working on One Page Love, chatting to people, collecting websites, writing about the design. Oh my word, that's such a fun navigation you did there. I'm so excited to work within this niche. And because of that, it was never a chore to work on the side project. And because of that, I added them consistently. And because of that, we fast forward 13 years and I'm 8,000 websites later, and it doesn't feel like a job. And because of that, it's really grown because of the consistency. So there's so much to take away here. But the big one is that I identified I was passionate with something, and I just went all in. And I've been doing it consistently for 13 years. It's actually crazy to think about that. The internet 10 years ago, did it exist?
And that's exactly what's blowing my mind away, because when I'm on Twitter and stuff, we see these trends where, okay, launch a side hustle, make a thread about it, it goes viral, monetize it right away from day one. Everything, the timeline that it took you 13 years to start with a niche, grow it, then eventually monetize it, where now that side hustle is your main hustle. The expectation now is that it has to happen within a month, within a year. And it's so unrealistic, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. I mean, we're working online. There's a saying I say with a lot of my maker friends, motivation is the only currency. If you're not motivated, It's so difficult. And when you're on Twitter and you're seeing this guy or this girl, and they're like 16 and they created this AI startup, and they're like, coded in a weekend, it's already on like 2,000 MRR. I'm just like, wow, and that's not healthy. And like, I just want to convince sort of everyone out there that the best things that I've ever done are the things that took time. They're the most rewarding. I've had quick wins online, and take it. If anything, if you make a quick buck online, which everyone's chasing, but if you ever do, reinvest it in your next thing, But yeah, just try not be thrown away by this overnight success, because my overnight success took 13 years, and I'm still very much in the middle. We haven't finished. We got lots to do.
I remember going through your blog post, and I think you had a photo from 2008 when you were in London, and you had this this really ugly Asus or Acer laptop, like back in the day, the Windows one.
Oh man.
And you're starting One Page Love from that. And I think in 2008, it must have been just your passion interest, because I don't even know if it was trending back then. Like now there's this big interest in just one pager websites, but 2008, 9, I don't even think it was a thing back then.
So it's really interesting story how it started. So I was in London in 2008, and I was working on a startup. I was freelancing, building WordPress sites and so on, and a friend convinced me to come over to London, and he was a client and turned friend, and he's like, come over, I got this idea. We're going to create the social network, okay, for music. It's going to be Facebook for music. It was called Rock Lifestyle. And it was so ambitious. We were so young. We knew absolutely nothing, but we went all in, and we learned so much about, the online game and, investment and so on. But I was, not getting paid. We were working on the startup, and I had to pay for rent in England. And, I didn't figure out at the time, I should probably have some English clients. They're paying the sterling over there. So I still had my South African clients paying me South African rand while I was paying rent in pounds. It was just the most bizarre setup. But I had to work late at night, and I was, freelancing a lot. And I would get these Word documents from my clients saying, Rob, I need a 6-page website or a 5-page website. And they would send me a half-page Word document of content. And I just kept thinking to myself, surely there is a different way to showcase their content to the point in one page. It's just that, you've got contact details and about, just say you're a wedding photographer. It's like your best four images. Think of it like a glorified business card. But at the time, I could never convince my clients because I didn't have enough references. I didn't have enough links to show them what was possible. So that's when it sparked off, There were a few CSS galleries out there at the time, and, they were curating pretty cool designs. And I was like, wow, but I need one-page designs. And there was nothing out there really. There was one site out there which was just like sort of a blog post of just a text list. But I was like, cool, I'm going to do this. I'm going to use WordPress. And back then it was like WordPress 2.6 or something. It was like really sluggish. And I just put like a thumbnail and a title and a couple of tags, and it was One Page Love. It was like March 31st, 2008. And I just started collecting references, showing my clients. They were stoked. Then I was like, one pages are super fun. It's easier to ship, easier to validate ideas. I started creating my own one pages. Then people it really like took off, and people were like, hey, I'm convincing my clients. It was like good validation of the idea, and it grew. And it was interesting because, I put a little ad on the sites back then, and, it was earning a little bit, but I was just thinking, okay, I have this much traffic now and it's making this much off this ad. What if I had this much traffic? And then you ask yourself, how do I get more traffic to my site? And I mean, it's the golden question now still, 13 years. But the answer is you need to just keep adding value. So I was on One Page Love thinking, how could I provide more value for everyone looking for single page website references? And if you rewind then, it was a little thumbnail and it was a title and a few tags. I was like, what if I made the images bigger? Wouldn't it be better to browse? And then what is happening is that some one-page websites used to redesign, or the domain used to expire and so on. And then all I've got to show for it is this little thumbnail. So you say, how can I preserve this? Because someone is still looking for references to, wedding one pages. They're building a one-page website for their friend. They need a wedding website to RSVP. Like, they've just got thumbnails. It's not enough. So I was like, cool, well, I'm going to start taking screenshots, and like fast forward, 7 years later, I keep asking the same question. And at that time, I had long screenshots, super long scrolling screenshots. But I was like, oh, these are actually a little bit crusty, on a retina screen. So like, let's make retina screenshots. So everything I've done is like just kept asking, like, how can I add more value? And by doing that, people started to return. People started to share it more. The more posts I add, there's a lot to say about being consistent, adding every day for 13 years. Google loves you. They're like, hey, this guy really, means what he says. He's backing. People are returning. They're sharing. They're linking to the sites. So yeah, it's just, through a lot of adding value, a lot of showing up every day. I mean, the question probably everyone's thinking right now is that, but how did you, make enough money to surpass your Cape Town expenses? And it's like, yeah, I failed so much. I experimented. I know I'm jumping the gun here, but, through One Page Love, I kept asking, how can I add value? But at the same time, what services or products could they need as well? So, with integrity and adding them, with as much grace as possible, is like, hey, maybe back then you're like, hey, AdSense is the easy one, but it looks ugly and it's terrible. And I'm not the biggest supporter of it. And I was like, well, someone actually wants a quicker solution to get a one-page website. So what about listing one-page templates where they can just buy them? And, I wasn't building templates at the time, but other people were. So I noticed like Theme Forest and all these others. And what I used to do is I used to list them on my gallery in a new template section. And I used to get an affiliate income. Yeah, I used to redirect them and get the kickback. But it's all about the organic, upsell. So if someone's searching a wedding website and they're getting the inspiration and then the posts run out and they're like, hey, if you need more references or maybe a quicker start to create a wedding one-pager for your friends or clients, why not you check out these wedding websites? So it's very organic, and I'm a big fan of monetizing like that, where you really understand why your user's there, and then pitch them what they could need, and that obviously converts better than a Google AdSense ad. Anyway, I jumped the gun. Wow, but here we are.
You had this train of thoughts. I just didn't want to interrupt. I usually just like let people, like, sometime when they go on like that, like they have this something they want to get out, and I've learned that not interrupting them is the best course of action. Because sometimes you don't know what kind of nuggets you get. Because what I just took away from that, detailed journey you explained to me, is that you focus always on value. Like right now, the obsession is monthly recurring revenue, monetization. Like from day one, your side hustle has to be producing, I don't know, insane amount of money every month. And to me, it seems like in the first few early years, you had so much passion for it. And I feel there are a lot of side projects that need to just grow organically to a point where you can even talk about monetization, right? But if you're burdening them with monetization from day one, I mean, it's going to go away. And this is something I've faced. Like from day one, I've told myself that, and I've tried. I went back on my word. I've told myself that design MBA, it's okay if it doesn't generate any money, because I genuinely love learning from people like you all around the world. And I did try, I tried to launch a cohort based on it. It didn't do as well as I expected. So for me, it's just the challenge of just growing, just like you, following the passion and not feeling bad if this side hustle directly is not generating any money. Indirectly it has, but directly, no.
Two things there that I really want to add is that, through this journey online, and, if any listener out there that wants to know how much I've failed, just go to robhope.com/graveyard and you'll see how many times I thought the next thing was around the corner, and it's in the graveyard, in the bin. But all of them I failed forward. That's the title of the page as well. They're failing forward. But what I want to say, and what I've learned from this journey, is that not every side project needs to be monetized. So that's a big one. Just sit there a little bit and say like, hey, I know you got your next idea, and it's like a real passion of yours, and you're like, oh, this is such a cool idea, and I'm sure people, will love it, and it'll grow and so on. But I've actually got this steady income, on a full-time job, or, freelancing.
Yeah.
And what happens when you don't force that side project to, be your main job or has to be monetized, is that you can get really creative. And when you're creative, that's when, like, honestly, just such magic happens. I've had some brilliant side projects where I've just, I can do whatever I want, and resulting in that, people are like, wow, this guy is authentic. He's obviously passionate about it, and then they're in as well. Someone said it the other day, I forget the saying, but they're like, users can sniff out when you're desperate and trying to milk a project, and then they're out as well. So it's like, my podcast, I know you've commented in the past, like, why don't I monetize my podcast? And the fact that I don't have to answer to anyone means that I can take risks. I can put absolutely anything in my podcast. I can drop, an edgy track in it. I've got a lot of metal, punk rock. And by doing this, so many people comment to me and said, dude, I couldn't believe you dropped that metal song in that podcast. And then you had this crazy beat out of nowhere. And then there was this intermission, and I've got no rules. I'm fully creative. And what that does is people are like, wow, this is refreshing. And and that's how they return. So the second thing, just, the first point being you don't have to monetize everything, is that it's quite a dangerous place to take your passion that one page websites, for example. I really am passionate about simple design, and seeing how people can actually sell their products and services in just such a clean, direct manner. But it's like, it was dangerous when I said, am I going to quit freelance to work on this full time? Because then it has to make money. And you need to prepare yourself for that, because, I got some scary lessons from this journey working on One Page Love, where I did take the leap. I was all in. I didn't diversify my income enough. It was basically my only side project that was making money. And, I tied sort of a deal with an affiliate, and that was, maybe 80% of my income was coming through this one affiliate. And overnight, they closed their affiliate program. Their marketing budget went, to advertising instead of affiliates. They're like, sorry, we have to close the program. And then I was caught going, wow. So, I'm just saying is that, when you can spread, a little bit of freelance, a side project there, it is a healthier place to go all in. I know there's lots of people that will say, well, going all in is great for focus. Yeah. But diversifying your monetization is a smart play, in my opinion.
I think that's so deep. I just want to uncover that. Like, it's so amazing to think that. I mean, I know people are going to say, oh, Rob's saying, like, don't worry about monetization, but he himself, like, right now is making money, is living from One Page Love. But to me, it seems like you organically let that opportunity come to you about, monetizing One Page Love. You didn't force it. And I think that even if in a different parallel universe, One Page Love wasn't making money, meaning it was just, you couldn't monetize it, you would be fine with it. You still pursue it as a creative endeavor.
100%. I don't know what it is, why I'm so drawn to curation as well. I have a sister site. So once One Page Love had grown to a point where, it was covering my South African expenses, and I was working on it every day, and I got to a safe place. And I mean, there's so many things we can say here, but when I got to a place where I was safe, and that I wasn't learning as much, and I wasn't as stimulated, and I mean, it was still great working on it, but you get complacent. And I thought to myself, I need a new challenge, and that I started a YouTube show, and I did all these things. But what I did is I launched a second site, Email Love, and Email Love for me, I thought would take off faster. It was quite similar to One Page Love. I have One Page Love to leverage the traffic.
Absolutely.
I have experience, like emails, so as the guys from Really Good Emails say, they say that emails are landing pages delivered. They are very similar. There's like, a single, topic, there's a call to action, but it's like more static. And I thought there were so many similarities between the two. But, email marketing is actually a massive beast. And, with my niche being single page websites, email is very broad. So I learned the hard way there. So like I'm trying to niche out Email Love into certain areas. But to your point about saying monetization is that, I'm really enjoying this challenge, trying to monetize email love while learning more about email marketing. Every time I see a beautiful email, like a clever email with an animated GIF, and like I was like, wow, that's crazy. I blog about it, I write about it, I collect it. Other people are learning from, what I've curated. That's very motivating for me. But monetization, it's just not ready yet, really. The traffic isn't that much. I don't really want to put advertising there. One page love makes enough for me to survive. Why do I need more by putting ads on a site with a low traffic? So there's lots of things that go through my mind, but I quite like that I don't have email love as, my main income. Imagine that. I would have to really like go hard and rethink things. But yeah, it's just interesting. And recently, I mean, just to share and try and, add as much value as I can for someone thinking, I did affiliate stuff on email love, didn't work, got rid of it. I had templates. I created 1 or 2 templates, email templates. And then all of a sudden, email builders, really took off within the email service providers. Almost every email service provider, you can literally build an email through drag and drop. So templates are sort of becoming irrelevant. And so that section's gone now. So I'm like, iterating, adapting. And my latest one, which I'm still not sure if I want to tackle it, but I have started, is newsletter discovery. Because I know newsletters are a big deal, but it's quite difficult to find, good content from your niche that can be delivered to your inbox. So I'll give you a good example for context is that, previously I'd be like, cool, design newsletters. It's too broad. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to niche down and saying, if I love typography, could I search the top typography newsletters and email love will come up, and I will have 10 listings. And they will show me exactly what every edition looks like. That's a big one where I feel is overlooked because you actually don't know what the send's like. You don't know what it's going to look like. So I have to have a preview of each. It must have a direct link. And who is the person writing this edition? So I'm answering all this thing. So again, back to one page love is like, how can I add as much value? So you say, if I was looking for typography newsletters, what would they want to see? They don't want to see pop-up banners asking me for email addresses. They want to see fast results, previews of exactly what it looks like. How often do they send? Who's the person behind it? I'm considering tackling this, and I've started, but it's very, very, very difficult to get previews of actual sends at scale. I'm basically subscribing to every newsletter in the world.
That's what I thought. And then you're taking screenshots of each one. So it's very intensive work-wise.
It's intensive, and yeah, I'm in the middle right now. I'm just discovering. This might be another fail. This might be a win. But I'll tell you one thing is that I've actually, opened up submissions, and a lot of people are emailing me say, please, can I be a part of this archive? And then that's some validation. And I thought to myself, wow, well, if there's value there, would they be willing to pay for this? So, I've been juggling figures, and I've been testing $30 a year, and then like no bites. $10 a year, and I get lots of bites. I'm like, trying to find this ground, but I've got this validation where I've actually started charging subscription for listings on the discovery section. And yeah, that's a slight monetization happening on one of my projects, and it's quite exciting for me. So yeah, that was just a little bit of a side story on like where my mind's going with all these little side projects and monetization.
It's like almost like soul therapy right now, what I'm experiencing, but like for makers. Because when I started the podcast, I mean, I told myself like, okay, I'm not going to monetize it and stuff. And then obviously, you see people on Twitter doing it, and I tried it too. And, it kind of felt awesome, like to go all in on it and, quit your full-time job for it.
Mm.
And now that I'm looking for another full-time job right now, because I came to the realization that when I had like all my bills being taken care of, I could really be creative with the podcast and really enjoy the curation, like you said, like talking to awesome people, learning from them, not worry about, well, how do I monetize it? Like, I don't have to. But it kind of like this current culture makes you feel like shameful, like, oh, you're going back now. Oh, you're now taking a full-time job or freelance client. So with all these things you're doing, do you still entertain like freelance clients if like a good opportunity came, or you're like, I shall never do any kind of freelancing?
So yeah, it's something I'm dealing with right now. So because I've landing pages is a big topic in my life. I created this book organically through curating one-page websites since 2008 and, trying to add value. I landed up inspecting them. So, to add more value, I would identify the typeface. I would go into the code. I would see what kind of platform they were using. This is built with Webflow and all this kind of stuff. And I really got to see how landing pages were built. And I used to pick up these trends. I would tag the features as well. So again, adding value, I'd be like, cool, well, maybe people want to browse landing pages or one pages that just have diagonal rule sections, so I would add those tags. So anyway, then I used to pick up like, wow, diagonal sections have become quite a trend in landing pages. And that's also a good way to spice up your landing page design, is like literally just take that line and just twirl it, and it looks different than others. So through all these trends and so on, I created this content, and people look to me and they're like, what do you think of this landing page? And I give them feedback. I started a critique service. So I'm doing audits, and, naturally, 2020, and by the time it's out, 2022, I've been working on a landing page course. And, for you to do a course and freelance at the same time and drop the book and do the side project, and I'm trying to, literally subscribe to 1 million emails and, do all these things. Freelancing, it doesn't seem high up on the priority list, but I feel I have the imposter syndrome, and I feel like a hypocrite often, where I'm giving advice on landing pages and I'm not running big campaigns, for landing pages for big businesses. I'm not on the forefront of, millions of dollars made with this landing page. I've never made $1 million of a page, but other people have, and they don't have a course. So there's this imposter syndrome big time. And I feel like I could maybe extinguish those feelings by dabbling in a bit of freelance, but at the same time, sharpening my tools, getting back in it, remind myself, how bad communication is with clients and how good side projects are. But it's like, I do feel there's a lot of benefit to diving back in, but like a once-off, compartmentalize. And also don't forget, like I do have the freedom to choose a great client. I've dealt with some brilliant people in the past, and like, when I was kind of weaning off freelance, I just had my best clients at the end, and it was wonderful, but I always thought to myself, every second into their project is a second not into my projects. So you need to decide what do you want at the end of the day. And what I think a great life would be to have a brilliant network of inspiration sites, help people with their sites, through a course, through audits, giving away a lot of content, making videos. I feel like that would be a rich life for me, just, helping people and, building sites for money. It's just not high up on my priority list right now. So, why don't I freelance like right now? It's just because I got too much to do. But will I in the future? Maybe, maybe if the perfect job comes up, I will.
I was just thinking about, as you're saying, what does my rewarding life look like? And I've really enjoyed just building relationships with people. And I think that's kind of like going with the curation side of things in a way, where just learning from people, reaching out to them might lead to something, may not lead to something. I have no idea. But it's just something that innately, I feel for me, drives me. And that's why for me, what I've realized is like I'm slowly trying to like put off all the pressure from all these things. Like I started a blog, like, I told you, like, and then I had this like thing like, oh, I gotta publish 2 blog posts a month because somebody who inspired me does the same thing, or maybe more. And then it's like essentially like stripping away all these, like, because I looked at a graveyard of projects. I saw that you tried so many different things to see what was adding value, and then stripping away things that were just not valuable. Like there's all these experiments you're running, and then there's so much ego attached to it. Like, oh, I started YouTube and I was doing this like weekly streams, but there was a selfish goal. Like, okay, I'll get subscriber counts and then I'll sell a course and stuff. And it kind of felt like it's forced. Like I'm doing the motions. And I asked myself the question, like, if there was no money, like if let's say there was no money at the end of the tunnel, like you do all these things, there's no like money, what would you still do? And the only answer I could come up with was just interviewing people. Like, I don't think I'll do the YouTube streams or the blog post. Wow. Or I was just having all these epiphanies going through your journey.
Someone asked me that the other day, because, I think I had subscribed to like 100th, newsletter that day or something. And then I was just chatting to my friend Manu in Italy, and he's my direct Italian friend. It's like my counsel, keeps me in check. You know, every time I send him a design, I have to tell him like, hey dude, it's just a wireframe, you know, like the buttons aren't aligned, like just, you know, just be nice. And he told me the other day, he goes, Rob, you know, like if you knew you would never make $1 from email love ever for the rest of your life, would you work on it for another second? And it was like, it was quite hard. It was hard. Like I was like, oof, you know, why am I in this one? You know, I liked the challenge of greenlighting that project because I was thinking I could make, you know, another, you know, big site that could help a lot of people. But when you don't see that traffic go as high as you expected, I mean, there's a lot to say about expectations right now. But it's like when you start seeing that as first traction, that's when, you know, it really helps your motivation. But like, what if I'd never made money ever? And it's an interesting one because, you know, just connecting the niche communities through the newsletter section. And I've started to see a little buzz there. It's like, that's super rewarding for me. That's way more rewarding than money. So that for me is keeping me there. But email itself, and this is an aside, is that, you know, I was really attracted to beautiful email designs. And I was like, wow, this is very smart and clever. And these people are legends. And I would love to, you know, spotlight these and we can all learn from them. You know, on Email Love, you can inspect an email, look at the code, you can download it. There's like a lot of stuff that I created on the site. But I started to notice that my favorite emails were 4 JPEGs stacked on top of each other. Typography in the JPEG. You know, those were the best looking emails out there. And what I started to do is I was, you know, adding these and reviewing them and curating them. And then I started to feel like I'm basically promoting print design delivered in an email. And like, where is the value here? Where is the value for anyone? I'm just like regurgitating what anyone can get. So there's no real value to Email Love anymore. I'm just basically marketing for these brands. And that was a terrible feeling. I hit a slump where I didn't add an email for like 3 months. I was just like, what is the point? I got to know the guys from Really Good Emails who helped, you know, validate that idea, you know, because they've got such a fantastic resource. And they've said as well, they've chatted like when I launched, and they knew One Page Love big time. And they said when they knew I was doing Email Love, it like put a little fire under them. And then they just started to go on their site, and they made their site so good. You know, all the little things that I was thinking, they like just smashed them. But the point I'm getting at is that what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to adapt, you know. So when Email Love started, it was like beautiful emails and newsletter discovery. Now it's going to be remarkable emails, you know, like clever emails, you know, guys that are doing stuff, you know, really differently, you know, interactive emails, the ones that stand out and are worthy of your attention, and then also niche newsletters. So it's not about following design newsletters, like I was saying, it's about following typography newsletters, not sport, not fishing, but fly fishing. It's like connect fly fishing people with passionate fly fishing content creators around the world through, and then I must be the middleman, and like that excites me. So to your point, you know, like about, you know, does it need to be monetized? I feel like if you are making money, but you're not really bringing people together, or you're not getting, you know, if you're not interacting with other people around the world, it doesn't really interest me that much. You know, with the podcast, like you were knowing, we can chat about that later, but you know, the people I've spoken to through the podcast, you know, having interviewed all the people and stuff, just make it so worth it for me. It's the people, man. I mean, cheapest. Is that not the takeaway here? It's like we want to just interact with people around the world. That's what makes it worth it.
That's deep, man. That is so deep. Just like asking yourself the question, like, what if I never made a single dollar from this?
Wow.
Obviously, like making some money, some traction kind of clouds your judgment because you can justify it like, boom. But then it's not always that traction will result in monetization. Like you can have traction all you want for so many things, but it's not always going to result in money earned. And I think for me, the goal that I set was I'm going to release 101 podcast episodes, and then, you know, like decide, like give myself an out. Meaning like if after that I decide like, okay, I want to like close the shop on this, I can. But until then, stick to it, because I felt like that was enough time to to just spend on an endeavor and then learn all the ins and out. And something I learned from you, which you've taught me, is in any endeavor you do, like designing super fans, like, Kevin Kelly's like, 1,000 true fans, and essentially having this set of people that really rave about your product, really like will go above and beyond for it. So instead of me just telling like everyone like what you taught me, I want to like have them hear from you first. Like, what have been some examples where you've done things that normally people wouldn't even think about, but that has helped you create this loyal fan following that you have now?
Cool. So, I'm going to go into some examples now, but I feel like to the point of, the side projects and so on, there's a lot of validation, and we say like, hey, if it makes $1, it's validated. But like, what about asking yourself, like, would I work on this if I was tired or if I was sick? Do I care about it at all? And like, that's another thing for me, is that's the one that keeps me going, is that like, all the things I'm passionate about are the ones that, are very easy to work on. And when they're easy to work on, that sort of naturally brings some money. So that was just one more aside, just to challenge people on validating ideas if they make money. Like they say, if someone uses a credit card, idea validated. Doesn't mean you're going to work on it forever. Anyway, so super fans is super interesting. Quite an interesting term, but I've done some things in the journey that haven't worked so well, and I've done a few that worked a lot better than I thought they would. But why did I do them? I wanted to be creative. That's literally the kicker here, is that I hadn't done this before. Oh, that could be cool. That could be fun. I'm challenging myself. I don't know how to do that, or I'm scared. If I'm scared, that's probably a green light. So all those things, and I'm going to give you 2 examples now, were greenlit because I was creative. It was me just like getting out the box, because every day I'm speaking to people on email, and I'm reviewing one pages and building my sites. But here I am, in this podcast, and I think to myself, okay, let's get creative here. This is purely a passion project for me, and I don't need to make money from it, but let's get super creative and see what we can do. So I planted an Easter egg right at the end of my podcast. So I'm talking the end. So here's this riff that's playing, or this beat, and you have to be listening to this thing for like 2 minutes, and then it sort of drops the mic and it goes, hey, if you're still listening, you are referred to as my people. So email mypeople@robhub.com, and I want to send you something small. So this was my little Easter egg I did in my podcast. And I did it, I think, for about 10 podcasts. And what my people means is that, I'm, used to play in a band back in the day. And, I generally am the guy who's staying up late at the club, and like, I like going all in. I like getting amongst it. And my people are the people that stick around to the end, consume the whole thing. The kind of people that, watch movie credits, those kind of people. Yeah. So I dropped this little Easter egg, and then what I did was like, I don't, have any clients. I don't do any prints. So I was like, cool, what'd be super cool is to do postcards. So I designed postcards, and I'm telling you, when you're wondering, hey, I'm working for someone now, I'm considering doing a side project, you must just remember you don't need a permission to do anything. So here I am on a Tuesday morning, getting quotes for postcards, designing postcards, sending designs around to friends, and I'm in the middle. So like, if I want to take away one thing, that is it. Hey, like if you can create that narrative in your life, you've made it. Hey, because that moment right there where I don't have to do anything, but I want to do this, and here I am designing postcards, and I have no idea how to, and I'm like learning about print and margins, and I'm like, wow, this is so difficult and exciting. And that is it, man. That is like my happiest state, when I'm learning something new, being creative, experimenting. And I have no idea if this is going to work. Like, I have no idea if anyone's even going to listen to the end of the podcast, but I'm creating postcards. So what I did is I created this postcard. Added a bit of personality, like added some things around it. I got these stamps with South African animals on them. And, I got like a few people replied like, dude, Rob, I really enjoyed the podcast, man. Like, and that outro track was banging. So what I did at that point is I always try to add a little bit more value. So the big takeaway here, how do you create a super fan, is you need to do things that don't scale, for sure. It's like people think I'm absolutely insane from what I did for them. You know, I'm not saying I added too much value to them or anything, but here I am interacting with them saying, hey man, really appreciate you listening to the end of the podcast. Please send me your postal address. I just want to send you something super light and small. You know, it's like don't, it's not going to be anything big. Just like super small. They're like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. So I sort of track them, you know, like I use the email address or their name. I try and match the, you know, Gmail face with the actual person. I try and keep it a little bit of a surprise, but I find the people generally. And then I check up what they're up to, like latest tweets, what they're listening to on Spotify. Like, I mean, I go a little deep but often it's like a business name. And especially actually if they've got side projects as well, that's my favorite one. And then I'll write a postcard to them and I'll go like, you know, hey, Jay Neil, like, thanks so much for listening to the end of the podcast. And I really stoked you enjoyed that episode of Steve Shoga, like, cool, whatever. And like, all the best with the Design MBA, you know, podcast. Like, I'm rooting for you or something like that. So it's like they're going like, how does this guy know I got this podcast? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like, I think it's a bit of a Derek Sivers move as well. I know that he does this kind of stuff. Maybe it was inspired by him. But anyway, so I did a limit of 100 postcards. So the stamps, I mean, they were 10 Rand each. This cost me like, I swear this cost me like $100 in total and time. But the time's, you know, it's worth nothing. And I promise you, what I got out of this experiment is like 1,000x. It's like people have just been chatting to me. I launch products, they're sharing it. They're giving me feedback on what I'm doing. I'll release a podcast like, you know, way down, and they'll just reply back like, the sound was a little bit off in this one section, you know, like at 42 minutes. And like, I love that. It's like, they're just so passionate. So there's your super fan. And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. And did I do it to make money? Not at all. But these people are paying, you know, $300 for my landing page cohort. They're buying my ebook. They are there. I mean, it happens to be, you know, within the niche I'm in with design and developments and so on. And if they didn't, that's totally fine with me. But what happens now is that they take a photo in front of their monument in their little hometown with my postcard. And they're like, dude, like, this arrived. And they're like, check, like, yo, you know, and they're like, it's like, yo, that's like the branding. And for me to get a DM of someone's monument with my yo postcard and them smiling, going like, thanks so much for like taking the time, like, throw money out the window, man. Like, money is nothing. Like, if you can create that narrative in your life, it's fuel forever. So people ask, like, you know, Rob, you're excited to work. How do you get excited? Every day, like, I have some sort of exchange where someone's grateful, or I'm adding value, or I'm just interacting with people, and it's like just the ultimate motivation. So a second example that comes to mind is, you know, I was working on this landing page course. You know, just, it was naturally the next phase for me, you know, having quit freelance and working on One Page Love. And it's like, this is a real fun and creative thing again, you know, make video. Also design the course that I'd want to watch. So yeah, like, a bit different. And it got overwhelming. You know, landing pages, as niche as you think they are, it can target pretty much anything. And, you know, I wrote this for so long, and like, I would, you know, on the back burner, overthink it, you know, over engineer it. And I thought to myself, cheapers, I have to be accountable, and I have to do something in public here. So what I said, guys, for the next 100 days, because I have so much landing page content like coming out my ears, I was like, for the next 100 days, like, you know, massively scared zone we're in right now. 100 days, I'm going to share 100 landing page tips, little nuggets. Yeah. Just extract them from my notes. So like, I had some validation with the content. I at least spun up, I think, like 30 headlines, like at least topic headlines. And I knew I could find the content somehow. I didn't think it would blow up as much as it did. But I'm like, I did that, but I said, you know, not everyone loves Twitter. So I was going to share that on Twitter, like 100 tweets in a row. But I said, for anyone who doesn't dig Twitter, I'm going to also do an email drip. So if you sign up today, you get landing page hot tip number 1 today. Tomorrow you get landing page hot tip number 2. And I try to be creative again, you know, like create these non-sully emails, just a nugget with a little animation. Had super fun, like designing this and so on. So what I did is you know, all of a sudden I'm like, shit, now it's really on. Like I'm very accountable right now. And I would, get the email drip would go out at 4 p.m. every day, South African time. And then I swear it would get to like 2 p.m. I'm like, I actually think this tip sucks. This tip is super bad. And it's going to go off in this email drip now. So I would be like pulling notes out of everywhere, like tweaking stuff, screenshots, like uploading stuff, like chaos for 100 days. I mean, you think it's smooth sailing? Absolutely no ways. So, but what I did now, and this is, I don't know if you want to call it super fans, but it's about, giving value up front. And what I've created is this like machine in the background right now. So if you go to, onepagelove.com/100, you can get 100 landing page tips over 100 days for free. And like, there's no charge. It's like, it's value. So where I'm getting at is that because I created this, is like, this is happening behind the scenes now. And I planted an Easter egg. I mean, I shouldn't even be talking about this, but like on tip number 70, it's saying, hey, if you got this far, you really do enjoy landing page tips. You take $70 off my, 70% off my ebook. Using this, coupon. And it's so crazy because like I launched the book, December 2020, and people are still using this coupon now because they happen to find this,
oh my God.
This email drip, and they've gone 70 emails deep, and then there's the gift. And
God. By
creating this thing, I'm just saying is that I did the postcards, trying to be creative, 100 email drip, try to really get out of my comfort zone and experiment. And, I've done so many other things, with the YouTube show, like we don't have to get into that. But again, I was in a place where I was like not challenging myself enough. And I thought, wow, YouTube's difficult. I've never used a camera before. And I thought I woke up, it was actually on New Year's Day. And I said, hey, it's the 1st of January. By the 1st of February, I'm going to start a weekly YouTube show. And this was in January 2018, I think. And like that for me was mad. But what I did by putting myself out there, and then I delivered a weekly show for 30 episodes, and it absolutely destroyed me into the craziest burnout. But like my video skills are so much better now. I've, friends from around the world. So yeah, I mean, what's the takeaway here with superfans? It's like, you need to provide value, be vulnerable, be authentic, add your own twist and personality. With all my stuff, there's at least some level of punk rock or metal or like some sick beats. And there's like quirky, and there's always color. I'm like, when I see a colorful website, like I'm just losing it. So it's like everything that I like, I want to portray in the work I do. And by doing that, people are like, wow, well, he stands out. This is Rob, So yeah, by being vulnerable, delivering what I say, adding my own twist to things, I feel like you stand out from everyone, all the charlatans out there that aren't backing what they say, those overnight successes. So yeah, a lot of hard work though. I don't want to ignore that one. But yeah, those are the 3 stories that kind of come to my mind, how I've gained a really healthy following online.
Oh my God. And you give yourself permission to quit if you need to. Like, for example, you started the weekly YouTube show, and then I believe now you're not continuing it. So you do give yourself permission to try new things, push yourself outside of the comfort zone. But if it doesn't still inspire you to continue doing it, you give yourself an out. Like, all right, cool, I tried it, but doesn't mean I have to commit to it for the rest of my life.
That's such a good question. So that's one I learned the hard way. So when I started the YouTube show called Yo, I dropped the first episode, and because I was, trying to be so creative, and I just created this design show that I really wanted to watch, that I thought the internet was lacking. And it really took off, man. I mean, the first one, I got like 200 YouTube comments, and like I got 2,000 subscribers in one day. And it was God. I promise you at that point, and like, I mean, if someone's listening here, I mean, if you're in the podcast at an hour, it's like, if you're listening to this, just learn from what I did. And like, I thought I was going to be a YouTuber. Like on that day, I was like, oh my word, I'm a YouTuber, dude. Like I'm like Casey Neistat, dude. Like I got 2,000.
Oh my God.
And you create this level of expectation that it's always going to be like that. And they say like, once you're on a roll, like, run with it and like be consistent, and it does happen. But I landed up creating this show that was sort of the same the whole time, and it didn't age very well because it was like current news. So I would put about 40 hours into every YouTube episode that was about 7 minutes long. And I would script it myself, I would film it myself, I'd edit it, and then there would be distribution with the newsletter and all this stuff. But what I didn't do, and this is the big takeaway, is that I didn't set an end to it. I didn't set an out. So like you said with your 101 episodes, that's your North Star. Like if it doesn't work out, that's fine. You know that you're aiming for that. But with me, it's like I got to episode, I think, 15, and then the traffic sort of plateaued at 1,000 views of video that took me 40 hours. And then you look at the stats and you're like, whoa, there's actually people drop off halfway, like a lot of them. So you're telling me 400 people watch to the end for 40 hours of work. And like I could be doing so many other, like think of 40 hours of freelance. I did that for 30 videos. So,
and no money.
And the money, it's like, no money. So I did get a sponsor. That was quite cool. Flywheel, I must shout them out, is that, I promise you within 1 hour of dropping that video, the CEO of Flywheel, he's like, dude, we love the risk you're taking here. And like, you're just trying to be creative and we want to support you, man. I think he just said, can we sponsor I think it was 20 videos. Like, can you just mention Flywheel in the beginning and then we'll pay you. And that validated me buying gear and so on. And I got good lights and everything improved. It was so cool. But point I'm getting at is that after 15 episodes, I was like, oh my word, I have to make seasons, because then I have an exit and I can take a break, because I was basically making a weekly YouTube video for the rest of my life and the traffic had plateaued. And I was burning out hard. So like you would release one and then one would do okay, and then the next one would do really well. It's an emotional roller coaster. And then I started to really realize that, hey man, you could be creating evergreen videos, like actually helping people within their niches, like, tutorials, how-tos, like those are so great. But no one is watching a Yo video right now. Like no one listening to this podcast right now is watching Yo 17, where I'm talking about Sketch just released this new update on this. It didn't age well. Do I regret it? Absolutely no. I got creative. I upped my skills big time. I learned a lot about myself, and I, got some new followers. But big takeaway is cap what you're doing. So if you got a podcast, try and break it up in seasons if you can, and take that break. Because if you're going to promise someone a podcast every week for the rest of your life, think of a newsletter as well. So I'm working on I really want to do this landing page newsletter. I haven't mentioned it to many people, but I want to call it Landing Pages Unpacked. And I want to keep it topical, where I'm like, today we unpacking, just FAQs and newsletters. And I know for a fact, like from experience and through seeing other people, is that if you can drop a weekly newsletter, that's going to grow. You'll be able to promote your products better. But if you drop a newsletter, one on a Tuesday, one on a Friday, then one in 3 months, people just unsubscribe. Like, why did I, so being consistent is difficult, but the burnout. So I'm trying to think of a way where I can create some sort of exit for my email series. So what I'm thinking right now, and this is work in progress, is I'm going to do what I did with the email drip. And I'm going to say, hey, Landing Pages Unpacked is like a 10-part series. And maybe over every 3 days you get an email. So it means if you sign up now, you can get 10 really good emails from me. And then I don't have to worry about being accountable every week. Because dude, I created these side projects to facilitate my lifestyle. And my lifestyle is about having freedom and being creative and interacting with people. And, I surf, and sometimes there's a big swell in Namibia and I need to go, dude. And if I have to write a newsletter about testimonials and that's stopping me doing that, I feel like I haven't done something right. So there's something there where I'm getting at.
I know. And this is the problem with this current culture or zeitgeist, is that people always point to the video of Mr. Beast, who's amassed so many followers that he went for 2 years, I think created a video every day or every week. I don't remember exactly, but he was just creating every day with no end goal in sight. And, he became a massive success. And this is one of the reasons why I had to be very careful. Because, people would be like, hey man, you only do 30 podcast interviews a year because they release every other week because it's sustainable. And they're like, why don't you do it yourself every week? And I said, the reason is because if I have another job or some commitment, I'm gonna like shut the lights down. Because it's like the reason I do it in advance is because once the episode comes, I listen to it myself. I create the show notes. I put the timestamps, right? There's like a team that helps me, but is it possible to do it weekly? Yeah. But then the problem is the quality of guests goes down because I have to do a lot of research. I have to reach out to people. So if I want to interview 30 guests, I have to like realistically reach out to 90 people because a lot of them are going to say no because with every season, the caliber of guests goes higher and higher. So I have to reel myself in with these expectations and be like, all right, make sure about everything is sustainable. Like that's kind of like, I know it's not the growth mindset, but it's more of like, I just want to make sure I sustain it. Stay in the game long enough.
I actually got a question for you about Mr. Beast. Like you made me think of something about the guy makes a video every day for 2 years. He's definitely not a normal person. Can we say that? Like to do that,
Yes.
you're definitely not an average person. Okay. So, but now here he is, creating burger chains. He's like doing cutting edge marketing, like some real crazy ideas that are brilliant. Some are like ridiculous, but some are brilliant. Do you feel like he was born that way? Or do you feel that because of that, like 2 years of training and then, this life sort of molded him? Or do you feel like he was destined for this? What do you think?
My take is that, I mean, this is my own perspective on it. Because recently I was like kind of like finding answer to the same question you asked me. And I was watching this video from Michael Phelps. For those people who don't know, he's one of the greatest Olympians of all time, won 18 gold medals in swimming. And, he was talking about going for 5 years straight every day in the pool for 2 hours of workout swimming, not just leisure swimming, and not missing a single day. And he was talking about how he missed like, going on a high school prom date or dance, whatever, like things that, like we want to do. So I kind of was thinking about this and saying to myself that what Mr. Beast was doing, like me and you both, and a lot of people are smart enough to know like that's what it takes. Like even today, like if you were to do like a daily show every day about UX and I'd do something similar, like there'll be some growth because there's very people who are going to do it. But I came to the realization that not everybody is willing to pay the price. And I know it's awesome to like be like Mr. Beast and stuff, but the more I think about it, I don't think I want to pay the price that it takes to be there. Like, you mentioned you want to go out and surf on like a weekday, right? And not be worried about, I got to make this daily video. And same thing with me. Like I want to do some other things and have freedom. So I kind of think it not less about like somebody's born that way or not. I think somebody's just, they are willing to make that sacrifice or the price, whatever it takes to get there. And I'm still working on telling myself that it's okay. It's not shameful if you don't want to pay that price. There's no need to feel bad about it.
That's a great take. I was thinking, by me having designed a lifestyle where I don't have to be online for a week or like 10 days, for example, and like nothing really changes. Obviously I like adding the stuff every day and curating and speaking to people, but like nothing will fade that much, because I've put in all this investment for 13 years on One Page Love, 8,000 sites and stuff. But it's, I know, like, I just know that it's like if I created a weekly newsletter about landing pages and added a lot of value and dropped it every week for like a year, I would sell more courses and make more money. It's like that will happen.
True.
But it's like, the fact that I don't have to work for 10 days and I'm still making enough money to live in South Africa, like I've won, dude. Like that's the right answer. And like it's taken me my whole life to kind of realize that. And the North Star for a lot of people is to make as much money as possible, but like what is enough money? And my expenses are low right now. I don't have children or anything, but like maybe if I did, I would need to make more and my decisions would be different. So it is just so many layers of context that you need to take. And everyone's stories, some people looking after their parents. There's so much, money does dictate a lot of, rules.
True.
But back onto Mr. Beast, and I feel like he is a bit of a unicorn. I feel like Michael Phelps is a unicorn. Like I don't feel that these guys, Like if
Abnormal.
anyone recorded a YouTube video for 2 years straight, there's probably quite a few people that are doing that, and they're going to get, nowhere on YouTube. I feel like he had like this little little demon in him, like it just got a taste, and then he was like, oh yeah, no, we've arrived now. We've arrived. And they stepped up.
And the
I guess
window of
that's another way to say it.
opportunity.
Yes. They
And the
took
window
it.
of opportunity, as we wrap up, is like, now everyone's doing it. Like, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of people are doing this daily streams and stuff. But like, if you did it when he did it, like 2 years ago or something, it was still novel. Like, not that many people were doing it. So it's also about like being creative in that time and space. Like being also a little bit lucky that when you did it, there's not that many people doing it like him. Now, obviously, like a lot of people are doing it, but that just like, that's the table stakes now if you really want to grow.
Yeah, this is like Outliers there by Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, he just talks about all this, really interesting. Yeah, it's just a topic I think about a lot. And it's okay. Casey Neistat, like how have we not mentioned him? How, he did 500 vlogs in 500 days. I mean,
Oh my God.
it's so all these great stories are a lot of work compounded over a lot of time. Like if you look at his first vlogs, the style is very different than his newer ones, and like he grew while doing it, and he went with it. So I guess the takeaway here is that when you're interested in something, like go in and do it for a long time, and it's okay to fail. It's okay to say, hey, this is actually not for me. Pivot, learn from it. But once it's going, like go all in and see where it takes you, dude.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. And how can people contact you?
Best place is probably Rob Hope on Twitter, and robhope.com, where I'm going to be sharing a lot of, my lessons of the journey, a lot of fails. I've been bad working in public in the last few months, but I'm pretty amped to ramp up all my lessons. I'm busy with so many fun little, things on the side that I feel other makers can learn from. My mistakes big time. Like one right now is I'm trying to get like squatted social media handles, and I'm doing that through, getting trademarks. And here I am in South Africa. Like I just want to share this journey, and yeah, there's so much I got to say. I could speak for another few hours easy, Janelle. But thank you for having me.
You bet. Thank you so much, Rob, for coming on the show.